Let me be straight with you. The Las Vegas Raiders just quietly made 5 roster moves that most fans completely slept on, and at least one of them is going to shock you. Here's the thing nobody is talking about right now. While every other fan base is obsessing over their star players and big money contracts, the Raiders front office is doing something that actually builds winning football teams. They are manufacturing competition. Real, brutal, cutthroat competition. Where nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, is safe just because of their name, their draft status, or even their family bloodline. Does that sound like a Raiders team you've seen before? Because it sure doesn't sound like the Raiders of the last decade. This new regime is coming in cold, coming in calculated, and coming in with zero emotional attachments to anybody on this roster. And today, we are breaking down exactly what that looks like in real time, because 2 massive stories just dropped simultaneously and together they paint a crystal clear picture of where this franchise is actually heading. Let's get into it. Everybody wants to talk about the number 1 overall pick. And look, quarterback Fernando Mendoza absolutely deserves the attention. General manager John Spyc and head coach Clint Kubiak swung big, drafted on both sides of the ball, and even traded up in round 4 to grab cornerback German McCoy despite injury red flags, because they believe his ceiling is shut down corner territory. Bold move. Respect it. But here is where things get genuinely interesting, and where most fans completely stop paying attention. After the draft ended, this front office kept hunting. They didn't pop the champagne and call it a roster. They went out and signed undrafted free agents with something to prove. And 3 of these guys are walking into training camp with a legitimate shot at making this roster, if they can do one thing right. Special teams. That's the golden ticket. That's always the golden ticket. First name you need to know, defensive end Kian Sloan out of NC State. 6'3", 239 pounds, and reportedly plays every single snap like he's got a personal vendetta against the quarterback. His motor, described as non-stop. His attitude, described as relentless. His style, old school, downhill, violent, which fits the silver and black identity perfectly. Sloan can play standing up off the edge or with his hand in the dirt, giving this defense real positional flexibility. The comparison being thrown around is former Raiders pass rusher Chris Clemens, who racked up 8 sacks in one season with Oakland before going on to a solid NFL career. Now that's a name Raiders fans remember. But Sloan's path to a roster spot runs straight through special teams coordinator Joe Damalis. And apparently, Sloan has exactly the kind of reckless, sprint full speed, hit anything moving mentality that Damalis loves on his coverage units. If Sloan can show up and dominate on special teams during camp, this conversation gets very real very fast. But wait until you hear about the wide receiver who could quietly sneak onto this roster through the back door. Wide receiver Chase Roberts from BYU is 6'4" and 210 pounds. In a receiver room that already has Trey Tucker, Jack Beck, and Jalen Naylor competing for spots, Roberts needs to find his angle fast. And his angle is simple. Be the big contested catch target that Fernando Mendoza actually trusts. Think about it. At Indiana, Mendoza had real success throwing to bigger receivers like Charlie Becker. Tall, physical, reliable in traffic. Roberts fits that same mold. If he can develop that connection with Mendoza early in camp, things could get very interesting. But here's the reality check. The Raiders also brought in Derek Young during free agency, a guy who already has a working relationship with Kubiak from their time together in Seattle and has a reputation as a dangerous special teams gunner. Roberts is competing directly against guys like Dante Thornton Jr., E.J. Williams Jr., and Malik Benson for those final receiver spots. And in that battle, special teams performance likely decides everything. Now, and I genuinely mean this, the most quietly important camp battle on this entire roster might be at a position most fans laugh at. Long snapper. Stop laughing. Special teams mistakes lose football games. The Raiders just lost their former long snapper Jacko Ben-Moya, and now there's a legitimate battle brewing between rookie Tyler Duansky out of Penn State and veteran Alex Ward, who has 38 games of NFL experience with the Los Angeles Rams including playoff appearances. Here's the wild part. Both of these guys were finalists for the Patrick Manley Award, which goes to the best long snapper in college football. This is genuinely a high-level competition for what most people consider a throwaway position. Ward brings the experience, but reportedly dealt with inconsistency on field goals that eventually got him released by the Rams. Duansky brings youth, athleticism, and the ability to actually get downfield and make tackles after the snap. which is exactly what Damalis wants from every single player on his special teams unit. Chemistry with punter AJ Cole III and kickers Matt Gay and Khan Matsuzawa will likely be the tiebreaker here. And Raider Nation, this right here is what legitimate roster building actually looks like. Not just stars. Not just splashy signings. Competition at every single position, top to bottom. So here's your comment challenge. Drop your answer below right now. Which of these three undrafted guys makes the final 53-man roster? Sloan, Roberts, or Duansky? Let's see what Raider Nation thinks. Now we switch gears completely, because this second story is the one that genuinely caught people off guard. The Raiders just signed veteran linebacker Cameron McGrone. And yeah, if you know NFL history, that name rings a bell. McGrone was originally a fifth-round pick by the New England Patriots back in 2021 after playing at Michigan, where he recorded 91 tackles and 3 sacks in just 17 games. Since entering the league, he's spent time with the Patriots, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Cleveland Browns, accumulating 4 defensive tackles and 9 special teams tackles across 27 career NFL games. The concern? Health. McGrone is coming off a torn Achilles that ended his season with Cleveland back in November. The Browns released him from the injured practice squad in December. That's a serious injury with serious recovery questions still hanging over him. But the Raiders clearly see upside, especially because this linebacker room has been completely overhauled. The team already made major moves by signing linebackers Nico Collins and Kay Walker during free agency. Speed, physicality, depth, competition. This front office is building a pattern and they are sticking to it aggressively. Now here's the part that hit different. To make room for McGrone on the roster, the Raiders released wide receiver Brendan Rice. And if that name sounds familiar, yes. He is the son of Hall of Fame wide receiver Jerry Rice, a man who is an absolute legend in silver and black, a man Raider Nation will respect forever. Brendan Rice was originally a 7th-round pick by the Los Angeles Chargers in the 2024 draft. He appeared in 3 games for the Chargers without recording a single NFL catch. He later landed on the Raiders' practice squad and had been working to prove himself ever since. Gone. Just like that.
No hesitation. No sentiment.
No legacy pass. Just a cold, calculated roster decision. And honestly, that move tells you more about this Raiders regime than almost anything else they've done this offseason. Legacy names are not currency anymore. Emotional decisions are not happening anymore. You earn your spot or you lose it. Simple as that. It doesn't matter who your father is. It doesn't matter what your last name means to this fan base. If you cannot help this team win football games and contribute on special teams, this front office will move on without blinking. Raider Nation has been screaming for this kind of ruthless accountability for years. And for the first time in a long time, it actually feels like the message is being received from the top all the way down to the bottom of this roster. Here's where we land. The Las Vegas Raiders under this new regime are doing something genuinely different. They are building from the ground up with competition at every single level. Undrafted rookies are fighting for spots against veterans. Veterans are fighting for spots against each other. Legacy names are getting cut without hesitation. And every single decision being made is pointing toward one thing: building a real winning culture around Fernando Mendoza and the future of this franchise. There are still questions everywhere on this roster. There is still pressure. There is still a long way to go before anyone can call this thing a success. But the foundation, the mentality, the ruthless competitiveness, that part looks completely different than it did 2 years ago. And Raider Nation absolutely notices. So tell me, are you buying what this new Raiders regime is selling? Or do you think this is just another off-season of smoke and mirrors? Drop your honest take in the comments right now. And if you're riding with Raider Nation through this rebuild, hit that subscribe button and come along for every step of this journey.